there's so much to be said about Girl Meets World, and it's not good things. Girl Meets World is the offspring of Boy Meets World, and while the latter was loved enough to get 7 entire seasons, its sequel did not go over quite so well. It was more of a mixed reaction, really. My personal view is that despite all of this, people were still way too nice to the show. Girl Meets World has some glaring issues that only got worse as the show went on. So I was watching it recently, and the more I watched, the more I wanted to talk about it. I was just going to do a simple video on Maya's arc and the 3-parter Girl Meets Triangle, Girl Meets Upstate, and Girl Meets True Maya, and then I remembered how I wanted to also do a video on her relationship with Lucas. And then I just kept remembering more and more junk that comes from the show, and there was no way this wasn't going to become a video essay. Everything in this show feeds into something else, and to bring up any of these without bringing up the context would not work. So out of the 72-episode, 3-season run, 30 of these episodes forward the plot, which leaves a whopping 42 episodes as filler. Fine. Now, to be fair, there are a couple episodes that really aren't that bad. Girl Meets the Truth, Girl Meets Maya's Mother, Girl Meets Game Night, Girl Meets the New Teacher, and Girl Meets the New Year. More than half of these are filler episodes, though. You know what? How about we start with what I like about these episodes? Maybe it'll help me when I have to explain all of the bad. Girl Meets the Truth has 3 very closely interweaving plot lines. In the A-plot, Riley lies to Farkle about his performance in the school play, saying that it was great when it really wasn't. These actions cause Farkle to become starstruck, as he takes everything she says to heart and decides to only focus on acting, which once again, he is not good at. In the B-plot, Riley learns that Maya stole a locket from the Lost and Found and keeps trying to persuade her to return it. She is continuously shot down, however, by Maya reiterating her reluctance to tell Farkle the truth. According to Maya, if Riley won't do the right thing, then why should she? And why does she want it so bad? There's a picture of a family inside, actually, the thing she wants more than anything in the entire world. And in the C-plot, Corey gets himself in trouble with Topanga as he takes telling the truth to an unreasonable level and mocks the dinner she had made for the family. Now, what makes this episode so great? All of these plots weave together closely to make a solid narrative about truth, how important it is, and how far to go with it. Riley was just trying to be nice. However, her actions give Farkle a big head about something he's not even good at, and he almost ruins his life over it. The locket was sitting in the Lost and Found for months. No one seemed to be coming for it. Who could ever miss it? But the smiling family on the inside is a constant reminder to Maya that it wasn't hers. And while there was a chance that it could be just another piece of jewelry to the owners, there was also just as strong, if not a stronger chance, that it meant the world to them. Corey was only telling the truth about how terrible Topanga's dinner was, but he did not need to go quite so far in mocking her for it. Some thoughts are better left to yourself. This episode does a great job with this topic, and all the characters act consistently within their set personalities. Minkus shows up in this episode, but where it really shines is in showing us a little bit into why Maya is the way she is. Her mother. Katie's husband left her. She's been working overtime to survive, and she doesn't know how to express her feelings. Naturally, this leaves her with little time to be there for Maya, and it affects her. It's a very realistic, very raw episode that set up wondrous possibilities for Maya's character arc. Note that I specifically added the word possibilities. We'll get to that later. Riley wants to fix it, just like she wants to fix everything else. But for once, this insufferable, this lovely sunshine child has to learn that she can't control everything. There isn't a lot to say about this episode because it doesn't need to have an innumerable amount of bells and whistles to be an amazingly executed episode. It's just really good in its own right. Girl Meets Game Night is a very corny episode with elements like dialogue choices and an almost egging on attitude of Corey and Riley that are sure to make you just as uncomfortable as Lucas was here. What makes this cringy episode and the other bad cringy episodes different, however, is that if you can look past it all, you have a legitimately good episode plot. Riley invites her friends to family game night, which makes Corey feel threatened, as it has only been the family before. Corey wants to feel reassured that Riley would never leave her family out to dry for the sake of her friends, and Riley wants to prove that she doesn't need to play favorites. This is a well-balanced episode that gives the proper truths and misconceptions of each side. I'll try to explain it the best I can. Riley is correct in the fact that she should be allowed to love her friends and have that not be a huge conflict with loving her family. Friends play an important role in a child's development and should not be discouraged. However, in her zeal to bring her friends into this situation, Riley neglected to give her parents the reassurance they needed to truly be okay with this change. She was expecting their full support while simultaneously giving them none of hers. This episode handles this nicely, and that's why the cringe doesn't get to me the same way it does in other episodes. Now, in Girl Meets the New Teacher, this episode is a fairly simple one, probably based after a Boy Meets World episode, seeing how often they reference it. Harper is the new English teacher for John Quincy Adams Middle School. She rides a motorcycle, lets her students call her by her first name, and teaches the graphic novel The Dark Knight Rises on her first day. This naturally gets her fired, but when she proves that her lesson did leave more of an impression on the students than can be ignored, she is allowed to stay in the end. With Girl Meets World's generally safe take on education throughout most of the show, this episode sticks out in an amazing way. Instead of getting another episode about Riley being all upset that she didn't get an A, we get this beautiful commentary about how anything can be teachable with the right instructor. We get to see Harper in one more episode after this, but I wish we could have seen more of her, because how many times are we forced to see Corey Matthews get shot down mid-lesson and have to teach something entirely different than was planned? It gets old after a while. This episode is spectacular, and my favorite episode of Girl Meets World. We're talking about Girl Meets the New Year. Yeah, the scenes in Sense and Sensibility that Harper and Riley talk about during this episode, I don't remember actually happening in the book, which I have read. You can take it with the one tiny grain of salt that I haven't read it in years, but I'm fairly certain that no one died of madness and no one threw a ball to decide who they loved. The one thing they did get right, though, was that Eleanor spends the book bottling up her emotions and relying on her head to do the talking, and Marianne wears her heart on her sleeve. Of course, both lifestyles get the girls in trouble. To get this to work, however, the writers do something weird. They reverse Riley and Maya from the roles they would typically hold if they were the same as they were in the previous episodes. Riley has been following her heart every episode without fail, but the writers needed her to use her head this time instead, so they treat her like that's what she would always choose. And before you bring up her giving Lucas up for the sake of Maya's feelings, that was a Hart decision too, and we'll get into that later. Maya has learned to distrust her heart and only listen to her head. All her trauma has taught her that. But because the writers needed her to go for Lucas in this episode, they give her the role of following your heart as opposed to Riley. Setting this aside, however, this episode is practical perfection. Because Riley is determined to stay silent about her lingering feelings for Lucas, Farkle has to be the bigger person and give her an ultimatum. And well, instead of explaining it, I'll just let you hear his words, because they are beautiful, and he is the best character in the whole show.
Harper said this all comes at a cost. What's your cost, Riley? Your own happiness?
Farkle, you said that you wouldn't tell anybody. How could you do this to me?
I'm doing it for you, Riley. I care so much about you. I want you to know that the truth is always the best thing.
How is it the best thing if it turns everything into a mess?
You don't think this is a mess already? I want you to tell them. I knew you would have me do the same thing. You ever heard of the horn of Gabriel?
No.
He's an angel. They say when he blows his horn, it's the end of time. If you don't tell everybody how you really feel, his horn blows at midnight.
Riley, well, she does tell the truth to Charlie in the end, telling him that she just doesn't return his feelings. She can't bring herself to go all the way. So, Farkle does it for her.
Riley still loves Lucas.
And the episode ends with everyone sitting together, dejected at the horrible situation this revelation puts them all in. It's a beautiful episode. It is tainted by blatant mischaracterizations, though, and what would proceed to come after it. So, is that it? Is there nothing else I like from the show? Well, not quite. If you were listening earlier, I think you would have heard me slip up in my script that I ignored for that one sentence and figure out what I'm talking about here. Farkle Minkus didn't have a great start. Every sitcom needs a butt monkey for jokes, and that was Farkle's job. The nerdy geek with no social skills and unreciprocated affection for our two main characters. That was Farkle. He was easily the most annoying character. Well, next to Riley, and Corey, and August, and Ava, and you know what, never mind. He doesn't even come close to the most annoying character. Where the show did him good, though, was letting him grow. Robbie from Victorious does not grow. Joey from Liv and Maddie does not grow. Gibby from iCarly does not grow much. Farkle, despite the odds stacked against him by every other sitcom in existence, grew. He slowly outgrows his childish tendencies and matures into a better person. However, there is one thing they got wrong, and now we transition into all my criticisms. Girl Meets I Am Farkle was originally going to be listed with the other good episodes I talked about earlier. However, when I reminisced over it so that I could talk about it, I realized one glaring issue. The way they treat autism in this episode is not done as well as it should have been. So it goes where Farkle got an unusually high score on his IQ test, so the school decides to test him for autism. For one, do schools actually do this? I wouldn't know, I was homeschooled. For two, Farkle's friends treat this like it's a horrible thing.
The first one they mention is social awkwardness.
Check.
You don't do anything awkward.
Well, that's just something you do and you're gonna stop doing that. He's gonna stop doing that.
Yes, eventually it's dragged out of them that they love him no matter what, but with the context of their initial reactions, it's too little too late. Now, I'm not denying that mental illnesses like these are hard. They can get in the way of us functioning like most people can, and hinder our ability to see the world like others do. But it is by no means something that makes someone lesser than, or bad. Maybe this wasn't their intention in making the episode, but it has way too much wiggle room to be interpreted the wrong way. This is a delicate subject, and more often than not, Disney blunders it. Look at Gabby Gabby, the villain of Toy Story 4. Her whole arc is thinking that she needs to fix her voice box to be loved by a kid. They come close to making this work by having her be rejected by the kid she wanted to be with, even with the voice box. But then they go and pull the rug out from under that with the way that they gave her a second chance. Because in this second chance, you know what the little girl does that makes her want the doll? Pull the pull string. The pull string connected to the now operational voice box. This sent a message to all the disabled people out there that their disability makes them unwanted and unloved. That's not just stupid, that's detrimental. And it's not even Disney's only offense, for in this same movie, they turned suicide into a running gag with Borky. But I'm getting off topic. Despite all this, the main offense here is that they didn't handle it as cleanly as they should have. At least they did everything right, though, when it came to Farkle's arc. And, unfortunately, the same can't be said for Maya. Maya is a rebellious, bold little blonde girl. Typical sitcom trope. She has a broken home life and developmental and trust issues that stem from that. Also, typical for the trope, though it was more heavily focused on in Girl and Boy Meets World than in other sitcoms, where it's usually just like a running joke. Maya's really just a female Shawn Hunter, and they're not shy about admitting this. Honestly, they could have made this great. I want to like Maya. I really do, but I can't, because they messed her up so bad. So Maya meets Riley, and the two become friends. In the very first GMW episode, however, they narrowly avoid Corey ending the friendship for good. One episode in, and this friendship is already disastrous to both girls involved. This is not looking good. Maya plays a main supportive role to Riley's antics, while always somehow getting herself into trouble. Her mother comes into the picture at one point, and she realizes a love for art as well. A love that will become very important later on. This goes on like so until Girl Meets Texas parts 1, 2, and 3. Well, it could be argued that it starts in Girl Meets Yearbook, but that was one throwaway line where Maya was pretending to be Riley that said that she loved Lucas like a brother. So, I don't know. So, the three-parter. It really makes no sense. Riley and Maya sign Lucas up to ride Tombstone the Bull by accident, and while they realize the gravity of their mistake, they take very different approaches to the situation. Riley tries to be extra encouraging and take any unnecessary worry off of Lucas's shoulders, while Maya threatens him to not go on the bull and refuses to even watch him for fear of the worst.
Because you like him.
We're not going to get into the love triangle now, because that will get an entire section of its own. Point is, her development was thrown a very interesting curveball now that Lucas was a major part of it. Say what you want about the ship, but this, just like all of the other previous concepts they had brought up, could have been extremely interesting. However, here's the main problem here. No one really seemed too excited in exploring any of it. Maya's mother is hardly a recurring character. Maya's art is only ever brought up as a plot device when they think they need to say something deep, and her new spark with Lucas, not counting the Texas three-parter, gets no real development before Girl Meets the New Year. When they hit high school, that's when Maya's development really goes down to the point of no return. For we have the three-parter of Girl Meets Triangle, Girl Meets Upstate, and Girl Meets True Maya. So Maya paints a purple cat, which is predominantly Riley's thing. And this makes Riley scared that Maya isn't Maya, and this is how she gets that across.
Fix her.
I don't need to be fixed.
You know who says that?
Who?
Somebody who needs to be fixed. Fix her.
What's wrong with her?
She's been getting good grades. She's behaving all over the place. What is that? I wanted what you had. Every day was a new adventure. Homework rebellion, sneaking out to a college party.
When we see a character, we want to see them grow and become better people. We don't want them to stay stagnant for the sake of filler episode options. This is something sitcoms get wrong. They want to keep their episode formats as unchanged as possible so the characters only ever get worse as the show goes on for the sake of comedy. It's never really funny. Maya accidentally grew a little too much, so they had to press the magic reset button to make her the same as she was in episode 1, for the sake of comedy. And it's not even like she's not Maya anymore either. She's still snarky, she's still bold, she's still scary if you threaten her friends. She just doesn't go out of her way to do anything she shouldn't, and that's a good thing. But she lets Riley talk her into being unhappy with herself, and to validate this, they make Sean feel the same way and ruin him too. Oh yeah, did I mention that Sean is supposed to be important to Maya? Well, it doesn't matter. It's not really believable when he only shows up for give or take 6 episodes in the whole show, not counting flashbacks. So no, if he is really that important, the show should have portrayed that better. Anyways, Maya is apparently back to her pre-character arc self after this, and after going after the same fight she had with Riley in season 1, the one with the paint, she tries to vandalize a park, believe it or not, but finds that she can't because of Riley's influence. So what actually happened? Did she change or did she not? Is she the old Maya or is she not? Well, after these episodes, there are really only 2 blowout moments for Maya for the rest of the season. Girl Meets Her Monster, where she and Riley ditch their shift at Topanga's coffee shop to binge watch a show. And Girl Meets Hollywood, where she flat out kidnaps a person to land her mom a role in a movie. Other than these 2 moments, not much has changed, so it's all very confusing and inconsistent. But you know the funny thing about all this? Despite what they say in the show, there is no way that Riley could have been the primary source of Maya's change. Maya had been friends with Riley for years, with no change. If Riley's influence was going to make Maya more like her, it would have accomplished that task so much earlier. So, you know who really changed her? Lucas. I bet you're all excited to see how much worse this girl's arc can get. Don't worry, it doesn't disappoint, because right after the train wreck 3-parter for her arc, we get the cursed 2-parter for Girl Meets Ski Lodge. Now, I'm conflicted, as whenever I come crawling back to this show, Girl Meets Ski Lodge Part 1 is usually the episode I gravitate towards first. But the episode itself and its second part is just a little too much. If you've been going through the whole show at this point, you'd already have seen plenty of plots that they directly stole from Boy Meets World. This is no exception. Well, is it still stealing if you technically own both shows? Not sure. Anyways, the class goes to a ski lodge on couples weekend, and Riley falls off the bus and breaks her ankle or whatever. Because it's couples weekend, everyone decides the love triangle has to die, and wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Spoiler alert, Lucas picks Riley, and Maya decides that her silly little crush on an older guy is a real spark. How many episodes have Maya and Josh interacted in before this? 4, and then only 1 after these 2 episodes. This is not love. So, Josh is making a fuss about them being 3 years apart in ages, which is in and of itself crazy. I mean, if we are going off of Girl Meets First Date, though, he does seem to be into older girls, so maybe that has a play in it. Anyways, he decides he likes her back. On what evidence? In Girl Meets Home for the Holidays, he finds her advances funny at best. In Girl Meets Game Night, he actively tries to get away from her. In Girl Meets First Date, he tries to get the attention of an older senior. In Girl Meets the Telltale Tot, the best he gives her is saying that she's more mature now. And in Girl Meets Ski Lodge Part 1, he constantly reminds her of their age difference. Even after they get together, he can't let it go, and they decide to play whatever the long game is. What does that mean? Well, they're going to practically be strangers until Maya gets to college, and then they'll date. Wait, it gets even worse. In Girl Meets Bear, Zay pulls some random feelings for her out of a hat, and he... Just listen to it, I can't even say it.
And if you really care about her like you say, then you don't want to see her thinking so much about later that she misses now, do you?
No. What do you have in mind?
Yeah, what do you have in mind?
You help me not feel like an outsider. There's a lot that's probably gonna happen to us, and I'll probably be stupid. But what's not stupid is you and her. And I never want you to feel like a third wheel when Lucas and Riley are gazing into each other's stupid, stupid eyes. So I want you to know that I'd be happy to sit next to you, next to Riley and Lucas, at the movies, so we could all be together. Is that all right with you? I don't care. Is that all right with you?
I think that's up to Maya. Till next time.
Okay, so this is ridiculous. I can see many horrible things coming from this. 1, everyone gets heartbroken if neither relationship works. 2, Zay gets attached to her and then gets heartbroken when she dumps him for Josh. 3, Maya falls in love with Zay and Josh gets heartbroken. 4, Maya gets stuck in another love triangle. 5, Zay and Josh end up hating each other. 6, Josh comes to visit before Maya goes to college, and she'll want to be with him instead of with Zay, but Zay still technically has her for a couple more years, and wait, is this an actual contract? Is Maya property to them? Oh wait, we're still not done. In Girl Meets I Do... Okay, actually, it's not terrible for Maya. She works out some trust issues. It's fine narrative-wise. It's kind of worse for Sean and Katie, who are only together for the sake of the plot, and it's just like, it's a pet peeve. I'm not going to go into it because it can really be summed up by that one sentence. Their whole relationship is just for the plot. Aside from a little bit of filler growth in Girl Meets a Christmas Maya, that's where her arc kind of ends, and the writers decide to focus on Riley again for the rest of the show. Whew, don't need a break yet. It's all good. This is a good pause point. You can just break and come back later, maybe get a coffee or whatever. Okay, back? We good? Okay, because now we need to talk about the reason Maya has never gone to kid prison, but also the reason that she's as messed up as she is. Riley Matthews is a bubbly, idealistic, introspective, naive, one-track-minded, selfish, insufferable... Okay, I think you guys get it. I don't like Riley. Her character, while it does have its good moments, is almost too good to be believable. And instead of just being an all-around kind person, she picks and chooses who she wants to be nice to depending on the situation, and then absolutely destroys the others emotionally. The person she usually picks is Maya. If she had to choose between saving the world or telling Maya her dress is pretty, she'd compliment the dress 100 times over. And it's not like I hate her just for being idealistic either. An example from another fandom of a bubbly sunshine child would be Sora. And I love Sora. He's goofy and always looks at the bright side, but these attributes actually help those around him instead of wreck their emotional growth. We're not going to go through Riley's arc like we did Maya's. I don't have that kind of patience, and it's not anywhere near as important. Instead, I'll just give a list of Riley being a jerk to others for the sake of herself or for the sake of Maya. In Girl Meets Sneak Attack, Riley attempts to forbid Lucas from hanging out with whoever he wants because she wants him for herself. In Girl Meets Game Night, Riley consistently antagonizes her father for the sake of her friends being allowed in the family game night. In Girl Meets First Date, Riley abandons Lucas on their date to comfort Maya when she sees Josh with another girl. In Girl Meets Semi-Formal, Riley gets so hung up about Lucas assuming they are both on the same page about the school dance so he wouldn't have to ask her, and she actually considers going with another boy because of this. In the Girl Meets Texas three-parter, Riley forces Lucas to date Maya when she is fully aware that he's still in love with her. In Girl Meets STEM, Riley almost wrecks a science grade for her and Farkle because she wanted to be in charge of the project. In the Cursed Maya arc three-parter, she sends Maya through an unnecessary identity crisis because she's not acting like the Maya she was years ago. In Girl Meets Bear, Riley emotionally manipulates everyone into searching for this old, ripped-apart toy bear when Maya has been looking forward to Taco Day for weeks now. And in Girl Meets Goodbye, we're going to get into that. This is probably not a comprehensive list, and I realized as I was writing it that maybe it's a little too long. But better to give too many examples than not enough. Riley is not a good person. Her dialogue is really choppy as well, as the writers have gone a little too far with her introspective side. She constantly talks about the universe and seems to have a sixth sense for important moments, and it's always just a load of cringe, because teenagers do not talk like this or know anywhere near as much about life as she seems to know. A lot of my other problems with Riley will come out when I talk about her relationships with Maya and Lucas. So, I guess let's finally get into the love triangle.
Riley, Maya, Lucas, enough already. Huh.
So this plot point came out of literal nowhere and really overstayed its welcome. With its bumpy entry into the story and its lack of focus in the filler episodes making it seem less important than it really was, it was denied the slight possibility of being a good concept that it had. Slight possibility. It was just bad, guys. Lucas was introduced to the story as a copy to the Cory and Topanga plotline, only with none of the charm. Lucas as a character was interesting enough, but it was very obvious that his main point in the story was for Riley to fawn over, so his identity kind of gets swept up in the identity of Riley. And with Riley being so unlikable of a character, you can see where that goes. This actually seems very familiar. Miraculous Ladybug. After a failed relationship attempt from the two of them that doesn't make much sense at all, they throw Maya into the mix. But honestly, it makes more sense than Riley and Lucas. Making sense isn't the issue here, however. The main issue is not how Riley feels, and it's not how Maya feels. The main factor in all of this, that everyone went out of their way to ignore, even pretending not to, is how Lucas feels. The love triangle consists of 2 girls and 1 boy. That means no matter who gets picked, Lucas will still be in this relationship, which means that he should have the final say. I would still be saying this if it was 2 boys and 1 girl. In that case, the girl should be the one to pick. But instead of realizing that and being more of his own person because of it, he ends up listening to Riley when she marches up and tells him how she wants him to feel. And then actually allows himself to be fooled in thinking that he actually likes Maya. But he also still likes Riley. And oh yeah, this is messed up. Even the characters in the show have to admit how stupid this is, but their cries fall on deaf ears because
we value our friendship too much to look at each other.
Unless it's a filler episode, then everyone's all fine and dandy. Lucas tries to make this a neutral situation where no one dates anyone, but that doesn't last long at all. And then we get to Girl Meets Ski Lodge, a comfort episode that is just so messed up, as you already know. So I already told you how the beginning of this episode goes. Don't remember? No worries, I'll replay it for you.
The class goes to a ski lodge on couples weekend, and Riley falls off the bus and breaks her ankle or whatever. Because it's couples weekend, everyone decides the love triangle has to die, and wait, I'm getting ahead of myself.
So after they get back from the hike, everyone complains about how Maya did the right thing and saved Farkle from falling off a cliff. Then Maya turns to Lucas and says, "Oh, don't you like it when we tangle?" And he says he doesn't. Can we talk about that? In Girl Meets Triangle, he admits that he likes it when Maya hers him and calls him Huckleberry. But even putting that aside, Maya had not significantly changed when he decided that he might like her. So why would he say he didn't like it when they tangle if it was clearly all they ever did before he decided that he liked her? Let's just blame it on last-minute retrospection. Or hey, maybe time to cool down made him realize how repetitive it was all getting. I don't know. To keep the story going, Riley spends all night talking to a boy named... oh, what's his name? Whatever. She spends all night talking to Plot Device, and Lucas gets insanely jealous. This is just another hint that he's leaning towards Riley, as his jealousy level isn't anywhere near as high when Maya calls Josh her fantasy. Evan! That's his name. Wait, was it? I don't know. Plot Device has served his purpose after using the same love book that they used in Boy Meets World, and now he's painfully in the way. So we'll just ignore him like the show does and go back to our favorite triangle and Josh, because he's relevant for some reason. After a lot of mumbo-jumbo, Josh tells Maya how he's decided she really feels, and because everyone in this show just lets everyone tell them how they should feel, she realizes that she doesn't like Lucas like that. She thought she did because she was scared he would hurt Riley, and she was subconsciously checking him out to make sure he was a good enough person for her best of friends. You couldn't see this, but I was typing more and more aggressively as I wrote this segment, because it's so stupid. For one, this doesn't happen. For two, how selfish of her. For three, this doesn't happen. But it's not just Maya who's this crazy. Riley is even more so. No matter what the issue is, Maya is her main concern. No matter who she needs to hurt or disobey or disregard. If Maya's slightest feelings are at stake, she will throw everyone else to the ground, and I wish I was exaggerating. But I am not. There are moments in Season 1 where admittedly this is not as bad. There are moments when Riley actually acts like a normal friend and not an obsessive creep in this season. In Season 2, there's an episode where Maya goes to break the rules at school and Riley doesn't go with her. However, the amount of episodes where she is excessive negates all that. This is why either relationship would have been doomed to fail from the beginning. Whoever Lucas picked, he wouldn't have their full loyalty. This leads us to the relationship of Lucas and Riley apart from the love triangle. Riley liked Lucas. Lucas liked Riley. It was sweet enough in Season 1, but then they made 2 more seasons and they wrecked everything. When Riley and Lucas actually did go out, the writers decided that they should be nervous and awkward, so that they could drive out the will they won't they tension even further than would normally be considered reasonable. Maya threw a curveball towards their relationship, and Riley decides that Maya's feelings are more important than Lucas's feelings. We covered that. So what about when they do get together?
You're not confident in us?
I'm hopeful for us.
But Maya?
Or forever.
Nothing changes. Nothing changes at all! If we isolate the I'm hopeful for us, this scene would actually be pretty good. No amount of love and feelings can guarantee a future together. The problem is, of course, in the context.
Riley's confidence in her relationship with Maya is far stronger than her confidence with Lucas.
What can we take from this?
I end up with Lucas.
Farkle!
Even if you feel this way, don't say it to his face. Lucas is a total Chad and an absolute simp if he managed not to get hurt by this girl's stupidity and naivety. Seriously, Farkle and Smackle are a healthier couple than these two. Smarkle is a healthier couple than the main pairing of this show.
You can go now.
No, stay where you are.
Smackle.
You may proceed.
Well, of course, there are valid points of the show's reusing of Boy Meets World plots, the complete dumbing down of Corey and Topanga, Sean and Katie being portrayed as a healthy couple when they rush into everything and are little more than a plot device, Ava's very existence, but I'll leave it here with these thoughts, as they are the most important thoughts. If you can watch Girl Meets World purely for fun, and if you have a high tolerance for cringe and outlandish plot threads, give it a try. Like I said, this became my Hurt comfort show, and I've grown numb enough to its ridiculous story to be able to enjoy it for what it is. However, if you can't separate this show from its values, or if you find yourself looking to these characters as examples of healthy teenage relationships, maybe you should stop and watch something else instead.